Welcome everyone to the 8th grade Saints Among Us program. We are blessed to have you all here. As we close out our year in ELA, we studied biographies. We took a look at other people's stories through the essential question, if you're willing to write someone's story, who does that make you as a person? We stand up here today more confident in ourselves because of the stories and inspiration of those in our own lives. Thank you for being wonderful biographies in our lives. After each student's speech, we ask that guest of honor come forward to be recognized.
I am honored to be the opening speaker at today's Saints Among Us assembly. We all share the vocation to become a holy man or woman, a saint, and to get each other into heaven. Saints are heroes to Christianity. In the fall, all of you made the saints come alive for the Ascension community. You dove into the life of a saint and truly became that person for the day. I am hopeful that these saints will continue to guide you as you enter the world of high school and beyond. I'm looking forward to hearing who your modern-day heroes are in your newly confirmed faith. As I've enjoyed being part of Booksmart's book clubs this past year, I am also pleased that Ms. Kane has allowed me to participate in honoring two of you. No one in the world can change truth. What we can and should do is seek truth and serve it when we found it. The real conflict is the inner conflict between good and evil, sin and love. These are words of World War II martyr Maximilian Kolbe. Imagine being given the choice between purity and martyrdom and having the courage to choose both. Maximilian was a comforter, counselor, friend, and a man of great fortitude and justice. He willingly gave up his life for a fellow prisoner in a concentration camp. While the characteristics that enable him to be a model of selflessness that cannot be matched, there are two young men in this class that I have encountered that have these qualities and more. My modern-day saints have unassuming personalities and are very personable. They are courteous and caring to all they encounter. Like Maximilian, one is always willing to lend a helping hand, and the second modern-day saint is the kind of person people are drawn to and admire. Once you get to know these young men, you will see that, like Kolbe, they are articulate and humble, reluctant to flaunt their knowledge, actively participating in classroom discussions and asking questions for clarification, and sharing knowledge on given topics. They have developed a thirst for knowledge and understanding of church history and developed the ability to pose good questions for deeper understanding of the time period in question. Their desire for knowledge makes them well-rounded, well-read, and intriguing people who you are drawn to in order to get to know them better. These young men have smiles that are infectious and great sense of humor that make them fun to be around. It is clear that they have a love for faith and learning. Like Maximilian Kolbe, I know that in their own ways, they would have your back and help you through any difficulties you encounter. St. Maximilian Kolbe is honored as a saint for many reasons, but similar saintly qualities live on in two members of the class of 2022. Not everyone will be a canonized, recognized, made it on the calendar saint. I have had the honor to get to know and watch these two boys become men of honor and faith. I hereby proclaim Michael Stapleton and Carter Witt saints of truth, humor, and valor.
Psalm chapter 46, verse 5 says, "God is within her, she will not fall." One saint in particular showed me this quote is true. Using God to guide her, Saint Dymphna sticks on the right path through times of hardship, just like my modern-day saint. Saint Dymphna found her passion in helping the needs of others. Following the great example of Jesus, she allotted God's works through her actions. To the best of her human attributes, Dymphna used her wealth to serve the poor despite her own struggles in life. Someone I know has done the same. From giving out rides to whenever possible, keeping her family organized while working a full-time job, or leading a small group throughout confirmation, she pours her best to everyone she can with her unflagging heart. Having just one small ounce of her love makes you feel entirely loved. I hereby proclaim Jill Welsh, Saint of Strong Women.
Little things make a big difference. Saint Therese of Lisieux. Small things like getting a fist bump every time you get in the car or an I love you before you leave the house. Saint Therese of Lisieux was extremely determined in living her life for God, kept a good close relationship with Christ, and put other people before herself. Just like my saint, my modern day saint is selfless because he helps me with homework, makes dinner for our family, and will always put others before himself. I hereby proclaim Shane Bowes, Saint of Dads.
Peter Claver was a man that had his whole life dedicated to two things: God and helping others. Peter's life was completely dedicated to putting others before himself. This is a skill that is very difficult to learn. How do you possibly give your life to someone else? God calls us to do this, and that is why Peter was very successful. My modern day saint is mindful of putting others before himself and creating a comfortable environment. In order to be a responsible, helpful man, you need to bring your best every day. Peter Claver and another man I know present this skill very well. I'm happy to know that Peter Claver's legacy is living on. I hereby proclaim Brian Canzaneri, Saint of the Canzaneri household.
Imagine a person who puts others above her as much as God did for us. Gianna Molla was known for this. She put everyone above her and even died for her daughter. My modern-day saint does so much for everyone else, and everything she does it with a good attitude and a smile on her face. Nobody understands how hard she works, and she goes above and beyond in her everyday life and doesn't complain when things don't go her way. She has been with me through the good and the bad and has never stopped loving me. Although I may not like her support sometimes, she is still there supporting me in everything that I do, no matter what it is. She treats all with kindness and compassion and is a true inspiration to look up to. I hereby proclaim Sarah Christensen, Saint of Overland Park, Kansas.
Saints are people who persevere no matter what happens. My saint was someone who always loves others and is there to help in a myriad of ways. She always wants what's best for us, and she always knows what it is. She was there for me when I was struggling and helped me in school. A saint never gives up, just like John of the Cross. It is shown in many ways, like when he gave up all he had just to teach others about Christ, and how also my saint gives up so much time to help others. She's taught us so many lessons from her experience, just like how John of the Cross educated others as well. I believe that saints are always there for people who are in need, even if they need help themselves. This is why I hereby proclaim my grandmother, Mary Vistara, the saint of adventure and selflessness.
Imagine being able to stand strong and prove yourself. Imagine walking into work each day and knowing that you are changing people's lives. Agnes was always kind to others and never wanted anything bad for anyone. My modern-day saint has always wanted to help people. He calls himself a fixer. Whenever anyone has a problem, he is the first one to go and try and get it solved. He goes into work every day with the mindset that he is ready to help anyone who needs it. My saint helps make people's dreams come true every day. Even though not everyone likes to go to the dentist, my saint tries to make it as enjoyable as possible. There are many people who we can call angels here on earth: NICU nurses, doctors, teachers, or parents. But one person in my mind has the attributes and seems special enough to be called a saint. I hereby proclaim John Fluke, Saint of Caring for Others.
St. Ignatius of Loyola was never thinking of himself, but for the needs of others. His ability to give up everything for people who have less reminds me of my modern-day saint. Truth always ends by victory. It is not unsistible, but invincible. Everyone can use this quote from St. Ignatius because people think you can't tell your parents the truth about doing something bad, but they will always love you. On the way home from lunch, my modern-day saint had a talk with me about this. He said, "If you make mistakes, we can always get through it, but you have to tell the truth. The truth will set you free." St. Ignatius' ability to inspire me and my modern-day saint has to make sacrifices to help others who have less and to never think of yourself. I hereby proclaim Sean Frankie, Saint of Wisdom.
The definition of charity is the voluntary giving of help to those in need. My saint lives this charity in everything he does, just like Padre Pio. Padre Pio opened a house specifically to care for the suffering of his town. He put others' well-being before his own. He cared for the sick and suffering while he himself was suffering. My saint is a charitable person. He always takes the check when the family eats out, and he gives us opportunities to have fun. He gives up anything just for an opportunity to make someone else's day. He is as charitable as any saint has ever been. I hereby proclaim Dennis Darty, the Saint of Charity.
While Gemma Galgani suffered so much and was thrown into situations that would perturb her, her ability to trust in God and her cheerful attitude is what helped her get to heaven and become a saint, just like another person I know. Gemma Galgani was never staid and always had a cheery and pert attitude. Even after her mother died, she was always kind to her siblings and she always kept a smile on her face. My modern-day saint has her ups and downs, but she's always kind and understanding. She's always there for me. I hereby proclaim Rachel Japs, Saint of the Japs family.
We are surrounded by saints every day and everywhere we go. Mark said, "And when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven may forgive your sins." Leopold was kind to everyone and never judged someone because of their sins. Every day, he took the time to listen to others and use the power of God to forgive their sins. My modern-day saint has taught me this, and I've been inspired by her ways of forgiveness and love. When you need someone to talk to, or maybe just a favor, she's there for you. She only puts others first, especially your family when it comes to dinner. She'll be the last one to get a plate and the first one to clean up. I hereby proclaim Kathy Jennison, Saint of the Jennison family.
My modern-day saint is selfless. She has a sarcastic and dry humor, which is probably where I got mine. Though she doesn't admit it, I know I'm her favorite granddaughter. My modern-day saint is always helping others and rarely has time for herself. Whether it be bustling around during Christmas time, preparing the house for guests, or even just taking care of my grandpa's needs daily, she always finds the time to be there for others emotionally. No matter the occasion or season, she always does things for the love of God and others. Jane is a reflection of my modern-day saint. When Jane married wealthy, she never lost the humbleness and gratitude for those with less than her. My modern-day saint does this too. She is always thinking of how she can make others' days better, even when she herself is having a bad day. I hereby proclaim Noreen Kennedy, my grandma, Saint of Selflessness.
There are many saints in our lives, and we live almost every day with these future saints, but fail to recognize them and how they help us become great people. Saint Jerome was inspiring to others and dedicated his life to teaching others and giving people the proper attributes to grow in faith. Like Saint Jerome, my modern-day saint is a true Catholic, spreading the faith to others. My modern-day saint is strong in her faith, so much so that she helped her husband convert to Catholicism. He was a Presbyterian, but through my saint's firm faith, she drew another family member closer to God. There are many saints in our lives that we should recognize, but sometimes they don't get the recognition they deserve. I hereby proclaim my grandma, Phil the Thrill, Saint of Catholic Charities.
Imagine having a personality that leaves everyone smiling. No matter where you go, you can always make someone's day. We are all in this together is a quote my modern-day saint and Saint Maria Goretti both live by every day. Maria Goretti cared immensely for the loved ones in her life. While the rest of her family worked out in the fields, she stayed in to take care of her younger sister. She also did all the cooking, cleaning, and sewing. She knew her family was going through a rough time and tried her hardest to keep things on track. My modern-day saint treats everyone with love, and you can count on her to leave a residue of happiness. Everywhere she goes, the mood is prone to be lifted. She unconditionally shows care for everyone in her path, and I can always rely on her to give me a big bear hug and comfort me in rough times. I hereby proclaim Lucy Bunker, Saint of Love and Care.
Even a small push or nudge can make you a better, stronger person. Having someone to look up to is a good feeling, especially if you know that they are setting you up for all that will come in your life. While St. Therese Lisieux's thoughts and actions are hard to compare, my modern-day saint can somewhat perfect the attributes of being able to give little advice, and little does he know, give a good impact. Without Therese's perseverance, she would have never gotten to the point she was at. If my modern-day saint never put his time and effort into what he does or is trying to help me with, I would have never had true confidence or maybe even the thought to do what I needed to do. He always devises new ideas or tricks to help me with what I need. I hereby proclaim Liam McGilly, Saint of Advice.
Like Catherine of Alexandria, my modern-day saint stands up for herself and others, has a good faith life, and does this while listening to people, just as Catherine did. When Catherine was invited to debate pagan philosophers, she spoke passionately about everything she believed in, but soon was condemned to death. Even as she was about to be killed, Catherine refused to renounce her faith and ended up helping convert so many people to Christianity. Just like Catherine, my modern-day saint is passionate about what she believes in. Whether that be telling myself and my family that she really wants a dog, or telling me that I need to get up in the morning as soon as the alarm clock rings and not wait in bed until I'm about to be late for school, or making me laugh when I'm having a really hard day. Just as Catherine was brave, passionate, and a good listener, my modern-day saint is persistent, bold, always a joy to be around, and is always there for people. I hereby proclaim Claire O'Leary, Saint of Achievers.
The saint I chose for our Saints project earlier in the year was Paul Miki. He was a great saint that had legendary characteristics that might seem hard to match, but my modern-day saint was able to imitate some of these characteristics, like spreading the word of Christ. My modern-day saint has been a huge help to me by showing my talents. I would never stepped out of my comfort zone and started helping with the computer and sound part of Mass if she did not have faith in me. From there, I was comfortable enough to try singing in the choir and singing a solo, even though I was afraid. She believed in me when I didn't. Paul Miki also believed in others that they would make it to heaven and become a saint. He believed in God, even though he was going to be crucified. The actions of my modern-day saint are the same as Paul would have done, making sure you feel the power of God in you. I hereby proclaim Mrs. Kellerman, the Saint of Music.
My modern day saint is deserving of this title because she endures with disruptions in class, she keeps coming to school, and always wants her students to succeed. Isaac Jogues was tortured for 13 months before he escaped and returned to France. After he healed, however, he went back to the Americas to teach the Native Americans that wanted to kill him in the first place. That eventually led to his death. My modern-day saint keeps coming back to school to teach us, despite that our patience is always strained to the breaking point. And I admire her for that. I hereby declare Mrs. Becky Reed, Saint of Ascension Catholic School.
Someone in my life has left a monumental impact on me, showing qualities that are similar to St. Philip Neri, who is my project saint for this year. Standing at 6'6", my saint doesn't look like he's the friendliest person on earth. In fact, it's kind of scary when you see him for the first time, and you would never expect him to be such a fun-loving, helpful person, but they actually are. He loves to make everyone laugh, and he always helps those in need. Jesus said, "My command is this, love each other as I have loved you." My modern-day saint has put this in the center of his life, just like St. Philip Neri. He put 3 ideals in the center of his life: showing great love, teaching others, and perseverance. I hereby proclaim Aidan Worth, patron saint of brotherhood.
Saint Damien was a man of love, faith, and courage. When I think of him, I think of 3 modern-day saints. My first saint worked from the bottom to the top. He eventually made it to Notre Dame and became a doctor, and now he's always there to provide for his grandkids. My second saint is a man who also worked from the bottom to the top, but he's always found a way to provide for his family. Whether that be making an invention or tucking me in at night, he's just been there, and I love that. My last saint is a man who has 2 crazy kids, a wife who teaches, a big office, and he also has to be a successful leader. And that is so much, and I couldn't imagine being in his place. And these 3 people are such big role models to me, I can't thank them enough. So I hereby proclaim Grandpa Mike as Saint of the Unheard. I hereby proclaim Papa Dan as Saint of Positivity, and I hereby proclaim my dad, Mike Brunn, as Saint of the Determined.
When my saint, John Henry Newman, was alive, modern science was nearly unheard of, though it was impending, and even then it was vilified and belittled by a myriad of public outlets. But John Henry Newman aided in the crusade to sway the church towards a vested interest in science, just like my modern-day saint helps people with science today. For a portion of his life, Newman was the head of academics at a newly built Irish Catholic university after giving a few speeches there. This is not dissimilar from where my modern-day saint is now in the field of academics. He was also engrossed in the general belief of science throughout his life and wrote many books about the places where universities fell short in teaching it, similar to how my modern-day equivalent of him teaches science to others. As many saints are, he was devoted to Mary and the Rosary to an almost fascinating degree and was said to have the Rosary in his hand at any time when he was not reading or writing. My modern-day saint prays the Rosary on her way to work every weekday. As John Henry Newman once did, my modern-day saint helps many people with science every day. I hereby proclaim my mom, Miss Childress, the patron saint of the 6th grade.
When St. Patrick was going through a rough time, he did not just give up. He always had faith in God and would keep trying and praying over again until he would succeed. His attributes made him a determined person and a courageous person who kept his faith in God, even though he was going through a lot of hard times and most people wouldn't. It is really similar to my saint because if I mess up bad, he'll always forgive me. And when times are going bad in our family, he was always there to help. I hereby proclaim Patrick Copley, my dad, saint of my household.
While Saint Cecilia had the best attributes like being kind, legendary, pure, and a loving person, well, there is more than just her. When I moved to a new school, I was scared because I had never moved schools before. My modern-day saint is the person I trust with my struggles in my everyday life. When Saint Cecilia was being forced to get married, she sang in her heart to the Lord at her wedding. My modern-day saint loves to listen to her music as her coping method, like how Cecilia used music to help her with something she didn't want to do. I hereby proclaim my mom, Heidi Immel, Saint of Overland Park.
My modern-day saint is inspiration to everyone around them through her attributes. This includes being hardworking in everything she does, caring and loving to the people around her, and overall just an amazing person to be around. She's the complete embodiment of how a modern-day saint should conduct themselves. My modern-day saint decided that she wanted to go back to school this year to continue a passion she had found. Not only did she work on furthering her education, but she still found time to be there for my family when we needed her. She's a pivotal part of my success. She excelled in all her classes through her unflagging determination and hard work, and that work paid off when she became top 10% in her class. She's truly an inspiration for how if you truly want something, you need to put your all into it. I hereby proclaim Laura Giamanco, Saint of St. Louis, Missouri.
My modern-day saint may have lived a typical life, which can make you think he couldn't be a saint. But from what I've seen throughout his whole entire life, I know he will be a saint. He strives to make everyone's life a whole lot better and also makes it a whole lot easier. Anytime he goes somewhere, he always meets someone new and is instantly friends with them because of his amazing attributes. Because of how he lived his life, like St. Francis of Assisi, I truly believe that he will turn out to become a saint, and I don't think he could have lived a better life. I will always cherish those moments where I'm walking up to the plate and then hear, "Come on, slugger," and instantly have the biggest smile on my face walking into my next at-bat. I'll forever be a ride or die buddy for him. I hereby proclaim Don Goodwin, Saint of Baseball Speeches.
St. Thomas More's continual effort seems like something that would be hard to do, but my modern-day saint effortlessly imitates his persistence and knowledge of God. St. Thomas More lived during a time of much confusion in the church. Many people were struggling to understand key concepts of the church, and while he could have done nothing, he decided to help. By using his knowledge of the church, he fended off heresy and helped a myriad of people grow closer to God. Just like St. Thomas More, my modern-day saint always uses his understanding to help those around him. He is always willing to help others if they are not understanding, and by always sharing his opinion during class discussions, he makes sure everyone is on the same page. I hereby proclaim Andrew Rickert, Saint of 8th grade students.
While Saint Bernadette's attributes were strong and confident, she never let other people try and deface her way of showing what she believed in was plausible and reasonable, just like my modern-day saint. Bernadette was caring towards others and always stood up for herself and proved to people that her beliefs are true. My modern-day saint has been through it all: sickness, struggles with mental and physical health, and loss, but she has found a way to get through it. Even if it was a curveball around the problem, she managed to find a way out. The word saint is a powerful word. The word saint, defined by the Urban Dictionary, a person acknowledged as holy or virtuous and typically regarded as being in heaven after death. My definition of a saint: someone who has stuck within the good and in the bad, helping them out of the circumstances. So in conclusion, I hereby proclaim Angela Rockers, Saint of Overland Park, Kansas.
St. Josephine's bravery, strength in her faith, and unflagging patience are all exceptional qualities, unmatched except for in one person, my modern-day saint. St. Josephine faced a myriad of challenges, including being kidnapped into slavery, but she still had the courage to make decisions that benefited her life and faith. She also kept her faith strong through a challenge early into her faith life, just 1 month after she had learned about Christianity. My modern-day saint had to make a tough decision at a young age, but she demonstrated bravery and trust that God would help her through. And to this day, she's still one of the most faith-filled people I know. St. Josephine definitely had to be patient through her years in the frustrating position of not being free. My modern day saint has so much self control, even when she's mad, and demonstrates patience rivaled only by St. Josephine. I hereby proclaim Abby Cradfield the saint of older sisters.
Rose modeled a virtuous lifestyle similar to my modern day saint, who in a myriad of ways is an inspiration that I've always looked up to since the day I was born. My modern day saint always tells me to do things to the best of my ability, and Rose of Lima did just that. She was devoted and determined to make a change in her community. Rose wanted to make this change herself, so she did. She was also selfless. She brought sick and hungry individuals under her roof to care for them. My modern day saint works day and night to provide for her family and still comes home to make dinner and do the extra chores around the house. She always veers me in the right direction and has helped shape me into the person I am today. I hereby proclaim my mother, Rachel Lears, saint of always.
Some of Robert Bellarmine's qualities include standing up for what you believe in, caring for others, and always having faith. Just like my modern day saint, when me and my family don't want to go to Mass, she makes us because she knows that is what's right for us, and she shares her faith with us. And that is why I proclaim Melissa Moyer as Saint of Overland Park.
Even though St. Mary Magdalene de Pazzi is an extremely faith-filled, hardworking, and empowering saint, there is one person in my life who can compare to her attributes and live up to her. Just as how Mary helped others through the hard points in their life, my modern-day saint helped me through all the difficult times in my life when I didn't know what to do or how to do something. My modern-day saint is living the way God wanted her to, and definitely how I had pictured the biggest role model in my life to live and act. St. Mary Magdalene de Pazzi is the most inspirational saint I've been able to discover in my life, and is faithful, hardworking, and empowering, yet still can compare to my modern-day saint. I hereby proclaim my mom, Michelle McGuire, as the Saint of Overland Park.
My modern-day saint may not be from the same time period as St. Dominic Savio, but I think there's a case to be made for the similarities between him and my modern-day saint. St. Dominic Savio had a lot of struggles, especially with his health. While my modern-day saint didn't struggle with health, she went through lots of other struggles. She had to work 2 jobs while going to college and being a single mother to an infant child. She had family members break contact and leave her behind. People pushed her down, but she still got back up. She made it through the storm to find the sunshine. My modern-day saint is very similar to Dominic Savio, and for these reasons, I hereby proclaim Charlotte Moore, Saint of Overland Park, Kansas.
Throughout his life, John Paul II was a constantly devoted man to God. Whether it was during his childhood years as Lolek or during his priestly years as Wujek, or when he finally became the Holy Father in Rome, he was always devoted. Now, it may seem like it is hard to vie with a pope and literal saint like John Paul II, who constantly pushed against 2 different tyrannical regimes, but my modern-day saint gets closer than he would ever expect. John Paul II was the first non-Italian pope of the Catholic Church in ages, and therefore had to leave his lifetime home of Poland for Rome, and then earn the respect of the Romans in order to be able to govern the Holy City efficiently. My modern-day saint frequently moved from place to place as a young man, having to find new friends and create new communities. My modern-day saint, upon moving to a new school in Kansas, found himself in extremely unfamiliar surroundings. Everyone was entirely absorbed in something or another, trying to achieve excellence and go pro in that area. He was very alone in that moment, and so to combat that loneliness, he formed a friend group that they lovingly named themselves the Misfits of Ascension, and it drew everyone in that school who felt alone and lost to that group and gave them something to love each other for. This inspired me personally to make strides towards building a friend group full of unique individuals who know and respect their own quirks, driving me towards excellence. I hereby proclaim my older brother, Alexander Randolph Rickert, Saint of Kenrick Glennon, and of all those who are lost.
Juan Diego was a man who lived in Mexico. He lived on a farm where he worked day after day, doing the same thing over and over. My modern day saint is just like Juan Diego. He was born to an incredibly large family. He's the youngest of 17 children. And growing up in Great Bend, Kansas, he would often get into trouble because he has so much energy. But he used that excessive energy for sports. He'd tell me about how they only had one baseball bat. If it cracked in half, they would just nail it back together and it'd be just as good. My modern-day saint lived life to the fullest, just like Juan Diego. Juan Diego was persistent and did what he loved, no matter what people said about him. If he didn't do what he pleased, he wouldn't be known for his great actions. So I hereby proclaim my grandpa, Dennis Keenan, patron of lawyers.
While St. Joan of Arc was a renowned saint known for her brave actions, my modern-day saint displays the virtues she did, even if he isn't as legendary. My modern-day saint is always finding ways to do better, and in church he's attentive and finds ways to incorporate what is said into his day. My modern-day saint is kind to others, but is not afraid to say and do what is right. Not only does my modern-day saint dedicate himself to religion, but also his work and family. Even though I cause a lot of trouble, he is always patient with me and willing to give me a ride. I hereby proclaim my dad, Terry Sharma, Saint of Overland Park.
My saint resembles Saint Joseph from a story I have of him when I was younger. A little before I was 9, I was still having trouble learning how to ride a bike. The solution, an agreement between him that I would get an Xbox if I learned how to ride a bike before I was 10. When I finally got it, I hit right into a curb since I was looking back at my brother and I couldn't feel my leg after that. But I relate this to how St. Joseph didn't leave Mary knowing that she wasn't carrying his biological son. Quite a big difference, but the same premise. I hereby proclaim my dad, Gregory Skoke, the saint of fatherhood.
Even though John Paul seems like a unique person, I know someone who can one-up him every time. Pope John Paul II had an unflagging love for science. He was well-read and embraces science and reason. He won the respect of many scientists in 1993 when he formally acquitted Galileo, which amassed just 360 years after he was falsely arrested for teaching science. Just like John Paul, my modern-day saint is great at science, although that does not run in the family. If people try to ask her for help, she would gladly help them. She's a caring and loving individual that tries her best for everyone she meets. For all these reasons and more, I hereby proclaim my grandma, Jo Kellerman, saint of the Kellerman family.
My modern day saint is so important to me because they've taught me everything I know about our faith. He is much like Aquinas because he is hardworking and he stays faithful to all of his promises and his devotions. He prays the rosary every night with my little brother, and he also taught others too. He wasn't always faithful as he was now. When he was younger, just like everyone else, he wasn't as faithful. When Aquinas turned 19, he wanted to become a Dominican. His family didn't like that idea, and they wanted him to have a much more respectable role. There are some differences between my saint and Aquinas. For one, my saint, I got lost. All right, so there are differences between my saint and Aquinas. My saint's family, they were always Catholic, and he never became a brother. He has a myriad of books on Aquinas, and he is a hardworking man. But he did many hard things like write books about certain topics and had to convince people what he wrote was true. Well, that's Aquinas. I hereby proclaim my dad, Greg Workowicz, saint of our family.
While St. Michael may seem impossible to match or even come close to his courage, strength, and willingness to answer God, this is exactly what my modern-day saint has done. My modern-day saint has had to stay strong through a myriad of hard times, some that I know and even more that I don't. St. Michael struggled with fending off Satan, but had an army of angels to help him. Just like the angels that helped St. Michael, my modern-day saint has amassed an army of people and angels surrounding her at all times. She has unflaggingly battled her sickness and persisted in her faith life to get to where she is right now. My modern-day saint has changed the way I see and do things in and out of school. She is the most positive person I know and someone I can go to if I need help with anything. Just like I can pray to St. Michael, if I ever need help, I can always count on her. I hereby proclaim Mrs. Reed Saint of Ascension.
I always admired the characteristics of self-confidence, good perspective, and an amazing heart, which is why I specifically chose Princess Isabella of France for my Saints project. Now, even though these things are big and grand, and my modern-day saint has all of these things, I would like to focus on the little things that makes her a queen of our household. Her jaunty heart filled with little quirks like her pineapple obsession, her love of the color red, going shopping at estate sales, popcorn for dinner, and her obsession with Hallmark movies. She's filled with all of these things. I don't even think she knows how pivotal it is to others. She impacts me, though, by giving me her commitment levels that she got from her parents. Saint Isabel of France is also a great example of commitment, starting a covenant and donating it and dying of her life's work. So I hereby proclaim my mamacita, Mary Bridges, saint of my household.
Imagine two legendary young ladies with kind and loving hearts that are always by your side and there for you no matter what. Just like Rosa Viterbo, who put her heart and soul to make sure everything and everyone were cared for. Well, that summarizes my two modern-day saints for you. My first modern-day saint shadows Rosa's actions like no one else I know. From her reading and annotating the Bible every single day to the unassuming acts of kindness she puts into her schedules helps me to want to become just like her in her actions and words. My second modern-day saint recognizes Rosa's capability to pursue anything for others, specifically when Rosa's aunt died. God gave her the ability to raise her aunt from the dead for the love of her family. My second modern-day saint's illustration of tenderness deposits a special type of trust on our relationship that I know is a safe spot for anything. As a result of their myriad capabilities to love and care for others, these actions make me feel as though I'm their long-lost triplet. I hereby proclaim Abby and Lauren Stout, Saints of Sisterhood.
Every single time I think of my Saints' Day saint, Carlo Acutis, I would always think of my amazing friend, who is my modern-day saint. My modern-day saint and Carlo Acutis are both well-liked by anybody they meet. They can't be unliked. It's literally impossible. Second, they're both extreme believers in Jesus. Whenever I'm struggling with my faith or just have questions about it, me and my modern-day saint could talk and always figure out what I need. And finally, both of them are extremely funny. Carlo Acutis was well liked by his peers and teachers because of his sense of humor. My modern-day saint also has an amazing sense of humor. If I could look across the room and see him making some sort of stupid face, I would always chuckle. Unfortunately, Alex Henderson already beat me to it, but I don't care. I hereby proclaim Walter Hobbs, aka Andrew Rickert, the patron saint of altar servers and my scoliosis.
Saint Philomena always veered back into who she was supposed to be. Even when it was incredibly difficult, she never changed herself or her beliefs for anyone, and that's why my modern-day saint shows me the same thing each and every day. My modern-day saint has taught me so many things, including how to never change for anybody. He has shown me how to always be yourself, even through the big or little changes we all go through in life. He's shown me to love myself for who I am, even if it means having to be a little cocky at times. His way of expressing his beliefs is exactly the same way I want to live up to. I can see how strong his faith is growing by getting older and finding out who he's supposed to be through his trust in himself and in God. I hereby proclaim Caden Ames, Saint of Being Yourself.
A sister is someone who loves you from heart. A sister is someone who cannot be drawn apart. She is the joy that cannot be taken away. Once she enters your life, she's there to stay. Just like my modern-day saint, St. Clare of Assisi had such great compassion, was a great leader. Growing up in a big family with all the littles looking upon you, I felt anguish with all the pressure. But when I had my modern-day saint to look upon, it made it so much easier. She was there through my ups and downs, especially when my grandma died. She was there to bring me up, even though she was going through it too. She was so selfless to help our family. St. Clare looked to St. Francis for guidance in her time of need. My modern-day saint was willing to help and listen to me at any given time. Even though we don't share everything with each other, I know whenever I need her, she would drop anything on her to-do list to help me. So I hereby proclaim Ava Grace, Saint of Sisterhood.
Sometimes the best thing in the worst situations is a little bit of humor. My confirmation saint, St. Anthony of Padua, wasn't known for performing many miracles. He wasn't known for making a blind man see or a deaf man hear. He was simply known for being there for his community. My modern-day saint has represented this throughout his whole life. He has shown me how to be there for others. He's always there for you whenever you need him. You always remember him in the good moments, but you'll never forget him in the bad. This is why I now hereby proclaim my dad, Chad Lasala, also known as Chatty Daddy, patron saint of humor.
Imagine putting others in front of you no matter what, even if you were in the worst pain in the world and they were hardly in pain at all. Well, Charles Borromeo didn't have to imagine this. He had a hard life growing up, always feeling pressure to be perfect and live in his parents' image. That wasn't until he realized it wasn't about being a wallowing follower of his parents, but a son of Jesus. Many say it's not possible to live like Charles Borromeo and dedicating their lives to Jesus, but they would be wrong. A clear example being my modern-day saint. Charles Borromeo took many approaches to belittle the devil from others' lives. He helped inspire so many people to turn to Jesus, just like how my modern-day saint always helps me follow the path of Jesus. Charles Borromeo was honored with putting others first and having faith at all times, which is shown in a modern woman now. So I hereby proclaim Judy Leary, Saint of Staying Strong.
This saint will always make you laugh and will understand whatever it is that you're going through, like my confirmation saint, Maria Goretti, by bringing you happiness and joy through her jaunty attitude and love for God. In all the many years that me and my saint have been friends, I can't remember a single time where she has been mad at me or we have had a fight. She's a very forgiving person, who is kind and generous in the most selfless way possible. She can always add a comment that's like, I know, right? Even though it's a simple pronouncement, you can tell she really does care and really can relate to you, veering you into the path of knowing that you're not alone. Maria is a saint who is always doing things for others out of her heart, and my saint is no different. I'm telling you that she will be there for you always. I was searching for a quote and I came across this one. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. I instantly made a relation to it. For most of us, it's difficult to do and accept this, but when I saw it, I knew my saint had already discovered this truth. Therefore, I hereby proclaim my modern-day saint, Megan Bowes, Saint of Understanding and Joy.
Is his restaurant the best in Kansas? That's for you to judge. But he could be the nicest man in Kansas. Just like Maximilian Kolbe, he loves to help people and mediate their problems. No matter what is going on, he will be there for you and help you when you're in dire need. He is funny and will never leave you out of anything. He kind of goes by the do others as you would want to be done to you. He always loves being with friends and family, and he has a lot of them. Everywhere we go, he veers off to say hi to some of them. Whether it's a Chiefs game or at the bullpen, there's always someone he knows. I hereby proclaim Rob Maloney as the saint of Maloney's Sports Bar and Grill.
My modern day saint, just like Angela Merici, is open to new ideas and never judging people, but welcoming them with open arms. Every year on my birthday, she finds a time for us to go shopping all day and catch up on our busy lives. She always listens to everything I have to say and gives the best advice with friends, family, sports, and life in general. Just like Angela, she started a group of women from a vision. She didn't judge anyone and welcomed them as one of her own. Everyone just naturally veers towards these people because of how caring and joyful they are. Everyone was a friend to Angela, and that is just like my modern day saint. I hereby proclaim my Grandma Kathy, saint of my baking.
St. Lawrence was a funny guy, but still serious when needed, just like my saint. When I came to Kansas when I was 4, I knew nobody, nothing, and had a myriad of questions. But someone took me in and cared for me. Her time was allotted to us. She's been there most of my life and knows me really well. Recently, she spoiled me and my brothers more than that one bottle of milk in everyone's fridge. And she cares and loves us more than anything. Showing this more, she works for an insurance company. So yes, my saint is funny, caring, and serious. And I hereby proclaim Robin McClellan, Saint of Ashurian.
Has there ever been someone you wish knew how much they did for you? Someone in your life that has sparked a flame that never seemed to extinguish? Sure, it flickered and danced, but that was what made it beautiful. Like many wished for St. Margaret of Antioch to see what her great efforts had amounted to, I hope that my modern-day saint can see how her extra effort and positive attitude affected me. She was the first person to introduce me to Greek mythology and volunteer work. Her simple suggestions led to passions that continue to this day, yet she never got to see this. I haven't gotten to speak to her about how much she did for me since the 3rd grade, just like how St. Margaret never got to see the masses of people she affected. Like many wanted for St. Margaret of Antioch, I hope that she can see all the great things she's done for both me and others. In the words of Percy Jackson, a book she challenged me with, an act of kindness is sometimes as powerful as a sword. Her kindness still impacts me today, and I'm beyond grateful for her. And so I hereby proclaim Mrs. Palermo, Saint of Sparking a Flame.
While most would think it hard to match St. Gianna Mola's level of care and love for her children, my modern-day saint makes me think otherwise. A quote from Gianna Mola is, "Love is the most beautiful sentiment that the Lord has put into the souls of a man and a woman." My modern-day saint has this true, pure, human love for her husband and her children. She's always making sure to put God in the center of all her relationships. Gianna handled all aspects of motherhood with grace and was able to harmonize all aspects of her demanding life. My saint knows how to handle every situation, even the most difficult. The path to holiness is often in doing ordinary tasks in an extraordinary way. My saint is really good at doing the little things with a great love. I hereby proclaim Nicole Padley, saint of accepting God's plan.
From going through tremendous pain and suffering, my modern-day saint and St. Catherine of Siena are so much alike. St. Catherine of Siena had to undergo a stigma in her eye, causing her to be in great anguish and not be able to do all the things she wanted to do before she died. Just like my modern-day saint, when he tore his ACL, damaged the nerves in his leg, and had a tendon transplant all in his freshman year of high school, playing the sport he loved, football, he was aghast at the fact he would never be able to play again, but wasn't bitter about it. He can go up and speak to anyone and has an ample amount of friends over what seems like every night. So I guess you can say people naturally veer towards him. To the strongest person I know, I hereby proclaim my brother, Hayden Reese, a modern-day saint of Cars.
My saint is the type of guy you would walk down past the sidewalk and think, he looks like a nice guy, but if you really got to know him, you would see he's much more than nice. He is holy. He is kind and can start a legendary conversation out of nothing. He is talkative and a respectable man you can look up to. My cousin Miranda brought him over to my aunt's house one day, and I instantly approved of him. He's a man of the Lord and keeps his faith life as if it was his own child. Speaking of children, he takes care of his wife and child with great care. He makes time for family events and took time to come to my confirmation. There has never been a moment where I haven't enjoyed spending time with him. I wish I could see him more often than I do, but I'm always glad to see him when I can. I can't wait to see what other amazing things happen to him in the future, but as of now, I hereby pronounce Aaron Gleason my modern-day saint, Saint of Kansas.
While Saint Tecowitha had a joyful smile, living life to the fullest, and having attributes superior to others, my modern-day saint has a myriad of qualities, including those. My modern-day saint has a jaunty personality like no other. As soon as she walks into the room, she has this contagious, glowing smile. She follows through with her faith and has such an amazing relationship with God, which in a way impacts me. Along with her smile, she also spreads her creativity, whether it's making cute handmade birthday cards, drawing, sketching, painting, you name it. Kateri Tecowitha would make baskets, clothing, and essentials for her tribe and would give them away. People always called Kateri Tecowitha Ave because Ave means smile in Mohawk, which was her tribe's language. My modern-day saint, along with my confirmation saint, both had smiles that could light up the room instantly, along with their amazing, impactful creativity, which is why I hereby proclaim Zala Yal Lamshek Saint of Joy.
St. Lucy lived this wonderful faith-filled life through hardship and struggle at times. Through all that I have learned about her, I now know that she is the strongest person ever. My modern-day saint is the same. I didn't know what was to come when I was born to a family with 2 boys as the only girl 13 years ago on June 23, 2008. As I got older, I thought I would always be in anguish with 2 older brothers bullying me all the time. Little did I know one of them would shortly become my best friend and modern-day saint. He was always the one to lead me in times of trouble, just like St. Lucy did to anyone in need. He is so much like Lucy. He was always there for me, with every step of the way. Lucy was such a pure, faith-filled person. She was always going to Mass and always found time to pray. My modern-day saint is no different. Whether it was asking to go to Mass on weekends or had a myriad of sports games, he always wanted to find time to go. This is why I hereby proclaim Brett Yankovich, Saint of Overland Park, Kansas.
All right, we're almost finished. Just hang in there. And because I know all of you are going to love this, we are all imposters. There you go. Imposter syndrome is believing you don't fit in. Be that in a job, a friend group, or a school. At some point in our lives, we will all feel this way. However, I can guarantee you one area of your life where you won't ever have to worry about being an imposter. One area where we are all crewmates. It's an inclusive group. It's the Among Us version of the Everybody Club. Light. That's the area. The area where no imposters will ever be among us. Light. It's not something we can see, but we can see because of it. Let me say that again. We can't see it, but we can see because of it. When anything is in the light, it's difficult for it to not belong. In the light, we are seen. Light allows everyone to be crewmates, and there's no groping around in the darkness to fit in or to stand out. Light allows us to recognize things for the way they are, and to welcome that existence into celebration. I'd like everyone to do me a favor and look up. Do you see it? You've all got these glowing things floating above your heads. I think they're called halos. Just know when you look in that mirror today, all of your halos have gained some extra wattage. Thanks to the light, you all have been deemed saints today. Never lose sight of seeing the light. The light that your actions have shed on the people around you. The kids have all phrased it wonderfully themselves. Saints do not have to be canonized. They simply have to be normal people who do extraordinary things, and to them, you are all extraordinary. I teach using essential questions, so I thought I'd end with one more. To what extent is the cover not the book? My answer? Like 99.9% of the time. Covers are only the packaging. No one eats the candy for the wrapper. They eat it for what's inside. No relationship in life will taste good if we choose friends only for their wrappers. So the cover is not the book. We all know that we have to open it up and take a look, because under the cover, one discovers that the king might be a crook, or that the crook might be a friend, or that a jock might be smart, or that a nerd might be funny, or that even a middle schooler might be a saint too. So time to circle it all up. Hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce you today to a group of kids who are far from imposters. A group of kids who will always be inspirational crewmates among us. And as their captain, I'd like to circle it all up and call upon them and proclaim them into sainthood. Megan, Saint of Shadows. Preston, Saint of 10-10-10. Gianna, Saint of Invention. Matthew, Saint of Coachability. Jacqueline, Saint of Cheerleading. Luke Frankie, Saint of Drip. Katie Garrettson, Saint of Goals. Derek Hellebush, Saint of the Ocean. Gemma Japp, Saint of Dreaming. Christian Jennison, Saint of Shoelaces. Jackie Kennedy, Saint of All Too Well. Owen Kitt, Saint of The Older the Wiser. Maddie Quo, Saint of Whispers. Eddie Mars, Saint of Self-Advocacy. Caitlin McGilly, Saint of Care Bears. Mary Elizabeth, Saint of Origami. Joe Pitzel, Saint of the Wave. Rowan Shields, Saint of Assistance. Michael Stapleton, Saint of What Would Jesus Do? Hudson Welsh, Saint of Poise and Purpose. Atlee Worth, Saint of Showing Up. Matt Brunn, Saint of Music. Ava Buckman, Saint of Eggs. Reese Childress, Saint of Upside Down. Ryan Copley, Saint of Salt and Pepper. Claire Flatley, Saint of Coffee Tables. Olivia Giamanco, Saint of Ink. Henry Goodwin, Saint of Stepping Up to the Plate. Alex Henderson, Saint of Coloring Outside of the Lines. Seba, Saint of Presence. Carmela, Saint of Wit. Caitlin, Saint of Spreading Joy Like Butter. Olivia Lears, Saint of Itchy Sweaters. Andrew, Saint of Eddie Haskell. Camden, Saint of Noticing. Elizabeth, Saint of Potential. Andrew Rickert, Saint of Words Like Sugar. Brady Robbins, Saint of Diligence. Dylan, Saint of Onions. Charlie, Saint of Crowd Surfing. Will, Saint of Courage. Tommy, Saint of The Simpsons. Carter, Saint of Escape. Tara, Saint of Spring. Lucy, Saint of Bubbles. Patrick, Saint of Seeing the Bigger Picture. Andrew Cook, Saint of Shiny Objects. Riley, Saint of Sugar. Hannah, Saint of Drive. Michael Lasala, Saint of Home Runs. Ryan Leary, Saint of the Jaw Drop. Zala, Saint of the Mirror. AJ, Saint of Insight. Grace, Saint of Confidence. Gabe, Saint of the Car Dealership Blow-Up Men. Heidi, Saint of an Increasing Volume. Kayla, Saint of Ferreting. Ella, Saint of Crazy for Swayze. Eli, Saint of Team Players. Cruz, Saint of Creativity. Lizzie, Saint of Headlines. Macy, Saint of a Dog Like Love. Chrissy Payne, Saint of Keys. Carly Mulcahy, Saint of Saleswoman. Katie Welsenbach, Saint of Girl Bosses. Isabel Burnett, Saint of Lax Bros. Anne Walashik, Saint of Warm Hearts. And Becky Reed, Saint of Support Systems. Now you're all probably very confused. While we listen to our modern day litany, you will find behind the books in front of you letters explaining why.
Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy.
Shane Bowes, Brian Canzaneri.
Pray for us.
Sarah Christensen, Karen David. John Fluke, Sean Frankie, Dennis Doherty. Rachel Debs, Kathy Jennison, Noreen Kennedy.
Pray for us.
Phyllis Vithicus, Lucy Bunker.
Pray for us.
Veronica Moore.
Pray for us.
Liam McGilly, Claire O'Leary.
Pray for us.
Mike Pitzel, Karen Kellerman.
Pray for us.
All you holy men and women, pray for us.
Becky, Reed, Jill, Welsh, Hayden, Worth.
Pray for us.
Grandpa Mike, Papa Dan, Mike Brown.
Pray for us.
Sherry McAuliffe, Barb Children.
Pray for us.
Patrick Copley, Heidi Elmore.
Pray for us.
Laura Giamacco.
Pray for us.
Don Goodwin.
Pray for us.
Andrew Rickard, Henry Ball.
Pray for us.
Angela Rockers, Zeltz Cradlefield.
Pray for us. All you holy men and women, pray for us. Rachel Leartz, Melissa Moyer.
Pray for us.
Michelle McGuire, Charlotte Moore.
Pray for us.
Tristan Pitzel, Alex Ricker.
Pray for us.
Dennis Keenan, Terry Sharma.
Pray for us.
Red Skoke, Joan Kellerman.
Pray for us.
Greg Workowicz, Mary Bridges.
Pray for us.
Abby and Lauren Stout.
Pray for us.
Mary Vizzicardo,
Pray for
us. All you holy men and women, pray for us.
Kate and Eves, Eva Grace, Chandler Sala.
Pray for us.
Judy Leary, Megan Bowes, Rob Maloney.
Pray for us.
Brad Yankovic, Mary Kay.
Pray for us.
Kathy Bright and Mrs. Palermo.
Pray for us.
Robin McClellan, Michael Stapleton.
Pray for us.
Nicole Padley, Aaron Gleason.
Pray for us.
Hayden Reese, Austin Shore.
Pray for us.
All Ascension teachers.
Pray for us. All you holy men and women, pray for us.
And that concludes Saints Among Us. Thank you all for coming and surviving this very crazy day and ending on this high note. Have a wonderful weekend.